So kia ora koutou katoa, ko Paula O'Kane toka anoa. Welcome to this talk with Ashleigh Barrett-Young, who's one of our keynote presenters for the NZAG conference down here in Dunedin and Ōtākou in December. My name's Paula O'Kane and I am one of the co-directors of CARE, which is the Collaboration for Ageing Research Excellence, a University of Otago research thing. So we're delighted to have Ashleigh both present at the conference as one of the keynotes, but also to talk to us today about her interest in researching, or in ageing, sorry, what she's researching at the moment and what she's going to talk to us about in the conference. So I'm going to start by asking you about your interest in ageing research.
Kia ora. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak at the conference. I'm really looking forward to it. So my interest in aging, it's really come about, I think, for me, as probably for many young people, through great conversations with my grandparents, and with my parents as they get older, and you sort of have these conversations and you think, oh, wait, this is something, that I'm going to go through. And I think when you're a young person, you don't think too much about it. And as you sort of get a little bit older and then you have kids of your own, things start to feel a lot more real. And one thing that I'm particularly interested in is how we age across the life course. So I'm really interested in life course research. And for me, I think like many people, I always sort of thought of, there's development, we go up like this, and there's this sort of flat bit in the middle, and then we kind of go downhill again as we get older. And the interest for me is in realizing that that's not necessarily the case at all. There's a lot of development, of course. There's also a lot of, perhaps decline happening as well, but there's a lot of things going on throughout the whole life course. In that middle-age period as well, there's a lot happening there, and that it's not necessarily a straightforward kind of up across down trajectory that I think is how it's typically thought of. I think a kind of a combination of those personal elements, particularly as I have children and watching them grow up, and then you think, how do these tiny babies ever become older people? You kind of try and like link these things across the life course. They feel very disparate. And I think one of the funny things about being a researcher who studies humans is that we have the same life expectancy as our subjects, as our participants. I often talk with people who work with, perhaps animal models or other things like that. And you sort of think, okay, well, I can't measure things, I can't just ask these questions at both ends of the life course myself. And that's one of the reasons why I was so keen to get involved with the Dunedin study, part of this life course study that has followed people from birth, as being able to be part of a team where questions have been asked across the whole life course, and we can really untangle some of those things happening at different points.
Yeah, and I think it sort of becomes very real whenever you realize that you're starting to be included, as I am, in the definition potentially of what an older person is, which I know can be quite controversial as to how we define aging and getting older. And I don't think we've ever got a right answer for that when we try to do a little bit of research into it. So the life course actually gives us a nice window to look at that.
True.
Yeah,
that's absolutely true. I recently asked AI just about middle age in general, and when it was defined, I was like, oh, I've been there a little while.
Yeah. And those sort of ups and downs, you do start to see those a lot more, don't you? Because there's things you still get better at as you get older, or things that go well, and then there's things that sort of hit you and you're like, oh, yeah, no, I wasn't expecting this quite yet. And I can do something about it maybe and bring it back up, and although it requires a little bit of effort. Absolutely, yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about what you're planning to talk to us about at the conference in December?
Of course, right. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the middle age period, which is a period of life I find really interesting, and particularly that sort of older middle age heading into old age. It's a period that is, I think it's really important because there's a whole lot going on in terms of health that is kind of setting people up for, potential chronic diseases as they get a little bit older, or conversely, some health behaviors that can be put in place there. But it's also something that I think I'm particularly interested in brain health and cognitive aging. And it's an area where there's been a real kind of explosion of research and looking at what can early interventions do. We possibly have, new treatments, new lifestyle interventions. We've got better understandings of these diseases, and everything that we're hearing, at least in terms of dementia, is that the earlier the better.
Yeah.
And that means looking before people are, symptomatic or are in old age. So really looking a lot earlier than I think a lot of people would typically associate, dementia or Alzheimer's as being an issue. So, it's really kind of looking at that healthy aging in midlife, the sorts of things that we can do. And because I work on the Dunedin study, which is a longitudinal birth cohort followed since the 1970s, I'll be talking a little bit about how the Dunedin study could contribute to research in aging. The participants are now aged 52, so starting to get into that middle age, heading into older age period. And I'm sort of going to hopefully look ahead to the next 20, 30, 40 years potentially of what's going on there.
Is there, this may not be allowed, you may not be allowed to say this, is there something really in particular that you're looking at in this cohort at the minute? Any particular markers or anything that's you can talk about that's insightful into that, or is that?
Yeah, no,
Like
I can talk about it. So my particular research focus is on blood biomarkers of dementia,
Yep.
specifically Alzheimer's disease. So looking at ways that we can take, these exciting new technologies, the fact that, we could have a blood test that might be able to tell you something about your risk of developing Alzheimer's disease, and then looking in a population-based cohort to see how does that perform in a real-life cohort. How does that look in someone who is, only in their 50s, when a lot of the current research has been done on older populations, or people who are already showing signs of cognitive decline. So that is an area that I'm really excited about. And I don't have any clear results to necessarily share at this point, but that is something that we are looking at in the next couple of years.
Yeah. And I can imagine that the results might be a little bit further down the line whenever you look at the markers now, and do they come to fruition in whatever length of time down the line. Excellent. So I'm looking forward to hearing that and some of those other insights I'm sure that will come through from the work that you're doing with that cohort. So I guess maybe the last question that I'll ask you about is what you're looking forward to at the conference. What's the thing that's most interesting to you, or anything you're really keen to get involved with?
Yeah, so I was looking at the I think scheduled abstracts at the moment, and just the sheer breadth of research that's happening. I'm really excited to go to as many things as possible. There's some great stuff happening across the board, whether it is more biological, very health end user based, more looking at the systems that support people as they're getting older, right across the board. It looks really interesting. So I'm very interested to just, I guess, go to as many talks as I can, see as much as I can.
Yeah, and I think the breadth of as you say topics is amazing, and some of the technology topics coming through, and then I sort of a little bit more in the social space. So I'm looking at some of the social topics that are coming through, and I guess all of those come together really to demonstrate how we age in the future. Yeah.
No, I agree completely. And I think we're living in a really interesting time where we're seeing a lot of change very quickly.
Yes.
And generational shifts that I think, are a lot more pronounced than they possibly have been in the past. And so, no, it'll be really interesting to, just see what people are doing around technology, around, other sort of systems-based interventions as well would be very cool.
Yeah, so I think that the program is very exciting. There's quite a lot going on over I guess, 3 days, really. By the time we head out to the Marae on the Wednesday, then we have a full day of programs on the Thursday and into the Friday. And then we're going to finish off with community events on the Friday afternoon, which everybody's welcome to join. People from across Ōtepoti Dunedin, further afield in Otago, and of course, everybody that's at the conference, as well as the Aging Well Symposium, which will have some more talks associated with that. So it is a jam-packed program, and really looking forward to that. Any final words of wisdom, Ashleigh, before we post you up on LinkedIn and and use you as a poster girl for the conference?
Sure. I don't know about words of wisdom, but I can certainly support what you're saying. It looks like a fantastic time. I'm really looking forward to it, and I am very grateful to be invited.
Cool. Thank you so much for your time today.